Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajanarangana Yashodanandana Vrajanarangana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada 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 Shri Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Oh, Premanandi Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashtaprayeshu Apadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Jai. So welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We are continuing with Canto 6, Chapter 11, entitled The Transcendental Qualities of Vrtrasura. And we'll be covering texts 19 to 23 today. So a relatively short section for us. The focus verse will be text 22. So let us begin with text 19. Dustin.
O King of the gods, since I, your enemy, am standing before you, why don't you hurl your thunderbolt at me? Although your attack upon me with your club was certainly useless, like the request of money from a miser, the thunderbolt you carry will not be useless. You need to have no doubts about this.
All right. So yesterday's section we heard about what happened when Indra tried throwing his club at Vrtrasura, and Vrtrasura just very nonchalantly just And it was like a super powerful, club. It's not just an ordinary, just like stick with a ball on the end. It was like Lord Indra's celestially charged club that never missed its target, that never didn't defeat the opponent. And he hurled it at Vrtrasura with all of his might, and Vrtrasura just very calmly and nonchalantly just caught it with his left hand, not even his right hand, his left hand, the weaker hand. And then he turned around and took it and hit Indra's elephant Airavata over the head with it and sent Airavata crashing down to the ground with Indra on his back. And Indra was, out of station and totally discombobulated and shocked at the outcome. So Indra's feeling discouraged. He's like, oh my God, now what? That didn't work. Now I have no hope. So Vrtrasura is encouraging him. Okay, the club didn't work, but why don't you try the thunderbolt? So Vrtrasura is actually like, he's like, come on, like sometimes people are like, go on, right here, like you encourage the person, your opponent, to like really step it up because you want a good fight. So Vrtrasura is saying, yeah, throw the thunderbolt, come on, you're supposed to be killing me, let me have it. Okay, go ahead.
Next one. O Indra, king of heaven, the thunderbolt you carry to kill me has been empowered by the prowess of Lord Vishnu and the strength of Deity's austerities. Since you have come here to kill me in accordance with Lord Vishnu's order, there is no doubt that I shall be killed by the release of your thunderbolt. Lord Vishnu is sided with you. Therefore, your victory, opulence, and all good qualities are assured.
Yeah, so here we see that Vrtrasura, the reason he has total faith that the thunderbolt will actually be effective is because he knows that it's been empowered by Lord Vishnu, that it was prepared exactly according to the order of Lord Vishnu. Go and get the bones of the Dadichi Muni, construct this weapon, and they did everything properly. So he's like, okay, Lord Vishnu said that this weapon would work, it's going to work. Vrtrasura he had faith. Indra didn't have such strong faith. So that's why he's like, oh no, what do I do now? Okay, next verse.
It's by the force of your thunderbolt, I shall be freed of material bondage and shall give up this body and this world of material desires. Fixing my mind upon the lotus feet of Lord Sankarshan, I shall attain the destination of such great status as Nana Muni, just as Lord Sankarshan has said.
Yeah, so this is why Vrtrasura is so eager to have Lord Indra throw the thunderbolt, is because he actually wants to give up his body, because he knows that by giving up his body, he's going to be free from material existence. He's going to be free from the cycle of birth and death and everything that's associated with it. So he's like looking forward to that. Okay, text 2 is actually the verse that we're going to focus on here, so we're going to pause and do the Sanskrit. Okay. So, text 22. Pumsam kilaikantadiyam swakanam yasam pado divibhumo rasayam narati yadvesha udvega adhir Mada kalir vyasanam samprayasa Pumsam kilaikantadiyam swakanam Yasam pado divibhumo rasayam Narati yadvesha udvega adhir Mada kalir vyasanam samprayasa. Please chant.
Sam kilaikantadiyam swakanam.
Pumsam kilaikantadiyam swakanam. Yasam pado divibhumo rasayam. Narati yadvesha udvega adhir.
prayasa.
Mada kalir vyasanam samprayasaha. Pumsam kilai kantadiyam sakanam. Ya sampado divibhumo rasayam. Narati yadvesha udvega adhir. Mada kalir vyasanam samprayasaha. Pumsam kilai kantadiyam sakanam. Yasam pado divibhumo rasayam. Narati yadvesha udvega adhir. Mada kalir vyasanam samprayasaha. Let's do the word for word all together. Pumsam, unto persons, kila, certainly, ekantadiyam, who are advanced in spiritual consciousness, swakanam, who are recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his own, ya, which, sampada, opulences, divi, in the upper planetary systems, umo, in the middle planetary systems, rasayam, and in the lower planetary systems, na, not, rati, bestows, yat, from which, dveshaha, envy, udvega, anxiety, adhi, mental agitation, mada, pride, kali, quarrel, vyasanam, distress due to loss, samprayasaha, great endeavor. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Persons who fully surrender at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always think of his lotus feet are accepted and recognized by the Lord as his own personal assistants or servants. The Lord never bestows upon such servants the brilliant opulences of the upper, lower, and middle planetary systems of this material world. When one possesses material opulence in any of these three divisions of the universe, his possessions naturally increase his enmity, anxiety, mental agitation, pride, and belligerence. Thus one goes through much endeavor to increase and maintain his possessions, and he suffers great unhappiness when he loses them. So just before I read the purport, because there's just one more verse, I have Vaishnav, can you read that please? Text 23.
Persons who fully surrender.
Sorry, the next one. Text 20.
Our Lord is Supreme Personality of Godhead forbids his devotees to endeavor uselessly for religion, economic development, and sex gratification. Oh, in the wanted does infer how kind the Lord is. Such mercy is obtainable only by unalloyed devotees, not by persons who aspire for material gains.
Thank you. All right, so now we'll go to the purport here for text 22. In Bhagavad Gita 4:11, the Lord says, Ye yatam mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham mama vardmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashaha. As devotees surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. Both Indra and Vrtrasura were certainly devotees of the Lord. Although Indra took instructions from Vishnu to kill Vrtrasura, the Lord was actually more favorable to Vrtrasura because after being killed by Indra's thunderbolt, Vrtrasura would go back to Godhead, whereas the victorious Indra would rot in this material world. Because both of them were devotees, the Lord awarded them the respective benedictions they wanted. Vrtrasura never wanted material possessions, for he knew very well the nature of such possessions. To accumulate material possessions, one must labor very hard, and when he gets them, he creates many enemies, because this material world is always full of rivalry. If one becomes rich, his friends or relatives are envious. For ekanta bhaktas, unalloyed devotees, Krishna therefore never provides material possessions. A devotee sometimes needs some material possessions for preaching, but the possessions of a preacher are not like those of a karmi. A karmi's possessions are achieved as a result of karma, but those of a devotee are arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead just to facilitate his devotional activities. Because the devotee never uses material possessions for any purpose other than the service of the Lord, the possessions of a devotee are not to be compared with those of a karmi. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militandena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Bhavaniro Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I'll just read the translation here to text 22 again. Persons who fully surrender at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always think of his lotus feet are accepted and recognized by the Lord as his own personal assistants or servants. The Lord never bestows upon such servants the brilliant opulences of the upper, lower, or middle planetary systems of this material world. When one possesses material opulences in any of these three divisions of the universe, his possessions naturally increase his enmity, anxiety, mental agitation, pride, and belligerence. Thus one goes through much endeavor to increase and maintain his possessions, and he suffers great unhappiness when he loses them. So here we're seeing a big difference between the devotional qualifications of Vrtrasura and Lord Indra. This chapter is called The Transcendental Qualities of Vrtrasura. So this is Vrtrasura speaking, and he's encouraging Lord Indra to kill him. He's like, kill me now so I can go back to Godhead. And this is something that Indra cannot relate to at all. Because, for example, in text 21, he's saying, by the force of your thunderbolt, I shall be free from material bondage. I shall give up this body and this world of material desires. And Indra's thinking, that's the last thing I want. I don't want to die. I don't want to have to give up my material position. I don't want to have to give up the hope of fulfilling my material desires. Is this guy crazy? Like, what's wrong with him? So this is the difference between a pure devotee and a mixed devotee. Is that the mixed devotee is attached to material desires and trying to get material enjoyment in this world, and the pure devotee just sees that all as totally undesirable, problematic, and Vrtrasura has experience of this because in his previous life, well, going back 2 previous lives, he was King Chitraketu, and he was a king, and he had a kingdom, he had so much wealth, he had millions and billions of wives, he had so much scope for material enjoyment, but none of those gave him happiness because he didn't have a son. And then, so he did a whole, yajna, he got his son, but then the son created enmity between not the son created enmity, but his existence, brought out the latent enmity and envy amongst all of his co-wives, and then they ended up killing the son and causing so much distress and suffering. So what he saw was that, material things just bring suffering. My kingdom didn't give me happiness because I didn't have a son. So then I went getting more and more wives in the hope that one of them was going to be able to give me a son, and those wives just ended up causing me so much misery. And then even when I finally got the sun ended up being a huge cause of misery. So I've realized through my experience that none of these material things that everyone thinks are the cause of happiness are going to give me happiness. So this is what he's saying. He's like, I just want to get out. I'm just so done with this. I've given up on all chances of being happy in this material world. And I've realized that the only source of happiness and peace and satisfaction is the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord and his service. So if I can go quickly, if I can go to a place where the conditions are more favorable for that service, then that's better. And that place is the spiritual world. And the sooner I can get there, the better. So Indra, stop delaying, stop hesitating and lamenting, and just kill me immediately. So I can go back home, back to Godhead. So we can see that he's totally fixed. Nothing is distracting his focus on the Lord, his determination to go back home, back to Godhead, so that he can serve the Lord favorably and forever. So what I want to talk about here is different levels of surrender. Because Indra is also a devotee. Prabhupada mentions that in the purport that both Indra and Vrtrasura are certainly devotees. So, but as devotees, there are different levels of surrender. So we're going to talk about 3 different levels of surrender. And those different levels or different qualities of surrender, I guess, definitely different levels, are partial surrender, conditional surrender, and full surrender. So partial surrender is like, okay, I'll follow these principles or these processes of devotional service. I'll follow these instructions of my spiritual master, but these ones are too much. Like this, I just can't do. I can't surrender to that. That's just like, no, just don't push me. Don't, talk about those things. I'm doing what I can, kind of thing, or I'm doing what I'm willing to do right now. So that's partial surrender. And the thing is that what Prabhupada quotes this verse in the purport, Bhagavad Gita 4:11, that as devotees surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So if our surrender is partial, then the Lord's reciprocation is also going to be partial. The amount of mercy that we're going to get from the Lord is going to be just a part of what he is able to bestow, or maybe even wants to bestow. But the Lord has to actually hold back on the mercy because we don't want it. We're not willing to receive it, right? It's just like if you're trying to distribute prasadam and you have a whole, you have bags and bags full of prasadam and you try to give it to somebody and they're like, no, I don't want any. So what can you do? Or maybe they just want a little, pinch or something. So what can you do? You want to give them a whole plate, but they just want a little pinch. So that's all you can give them. So you have to hold back. You want to give them the full plate. So Krishna wants to give us the full mercy. But we're like, no, I just want a little pinch. That's all. It's enough for me. Give that to someone else. Right? So that's kind of how we are. And when we're out distributing prasadam like to the public, it's always disappointing, right? It's such a disappointment when someone says, no, thank you. Maybe they even think that they're being like polite or, doing the right thing by saying, no, it's okay. I'm fine. I don't need that. I had my lunch. They're like, no, take. They're like, no, really, I don't want it. It's always a disappointment, like, oh well, they didn't get the mercy. Because we know how powerful the mercy is, that it's going to save them from, having to take birth in an animal species or worse. It's going to guarantee them a human form of life. So we want them to have. So in the same way, Krishna wants us to take the full mercy. He wants us to get pure devotional service. He wants us to go back to Godhead. He doesn't want us to stay rotting here in the material world with our partial surrender, like Lord Indra. Prabhupada specifically says he's going to rot. He's going to win the battle, but he's going to lose the war because he's going to stay rotting here in the material world. So why partial surrender? Why do we only surrender partially? One reason is that because we're attached. We have material attachments that we're not willing to let go of. And that full surrender means I just let go of everything. I let go of all of my material things, and which doesn't necessarily mean that we won't have those material things. We may even have more material things by letting go of what we're holding on to. But it just means that we're handing the situation over to Krishna. Like sometimes the Krishna say, let go and let God. So I let go of clutching onto these things that I'm so attached to, and I'm just going to let God decide what I need, what's best for me. And it may be best for me to keep that thing, in which case he'll protect it, he'll maintain it. It may be the best for me to have more than that, which he'll bestow upon me. But if it's best for me to not have that, then if he takes it away, I'm fine, because I have faith that it's best for me. So that's another thing that blocks our full surrender and leaves us in this level of partial surrender, is that we lack faith. We lack faith that the Lord actually knows what's best for us, and that he's going to provide, that he's actually going to provide for all of our needs. So we think, no, I need to do this myself, because I'm not sure if Krishna is going to provide this thing for me. We think that we're not going to be happy. So, it's like when Draupadi was being disrobed in the public assembly, and Dushasana was pulling off her clothes, and she was like holding on to them. So as long as she was holding on to them, he kept pulling them, because her strength was a lot less. She was just a dainty little woman, and he's this strong, Kshatriya. And so what's she going to do against him? So as long as she was trying with her own strength to protect herself, she was unprotected. She was, being disrobed. But then as soon as she let go of it and just said, whatever, Krishna, I'm just depending on you, and she stopped trying to hold on to it, then Krishna supplied unlimited. So it appeared that Dushasana was continuing to be successful, because he was continuing to take her clothes off, or at least pull out the pleats in her sari, is usually how we think of it. But Krishna was providing unlimited supplies of cloth. So he just got tired and just passed out in the end and gave up. So he wasn't able to disrobe her. So in the same way, we're holding on to our material things, thinking, I need to hold on to this because Krishna might take it away, or if I stop endeavoring to maintain my material situation, then Krishna's not going to protect it either, and I'm going to lose everything. But actually, if we just let go of it, then Krishna, if it's good for us, he'll keep it, and if it's good for us, he'll improve it, and whatever is good for us. So ultimately, what we want is what's best for us. Right? We don't want things that are going to give us trouble. We saw how in Chitraketu learned that. Vrtrasura, who was Chitraketu in his past lifetime, he learned that lesson the hard way, that all the things that he wanted and he was really intensely desiring, and they got fulfilled, they ended up just causing him misery. Whereas if he would have just turned to the Lord in the first place and said, actually when when Angira Muni showed up on his doorstep, Angira Muni, he's a devotee, so he wanted to give his blessings. He wanted to give blessings of devotional service to King Chitraketu. But Chitraketu, he was so blinded by his material desire to have a son that he wasn't able to accept any blessings. And so Angira Muni didn't even bother instructing him in the science of devotional service or the absolute truth, because he could see that there was no receptivity for it. And so he said, okay, if you really want a son, I'll do a yajna and give you a son. And that's all he did. He did that and he went away. So, like that. So we see here in this pastime a couple of ways in which Indra manifests this partial surrender due to his material attachments and his lack of faith, or his insecurity. So the first thing is way back in a couple of chapters ago, when he's in trouble for having disrespected Brihaspati, then he goes to Lord Brahma because he realizes his position is very weak. The demons are going to attack any minute and he's going to lose everything. So he goes to Brahma and he says, we need help. We need to, fortify ourselves with strength so we can protect ourselves against the demons. And so Brahma tells him, you should go to Twashta and accept him as your guru. And he's a good guru. He will direct you in such a way that you can achieve success. But the thing is that you have to tolerate that he has a slight inclination towards the demons. So Indra was warned. And so Indra, he went to Twashta, and at first he surrendered to the instruction at first, and he accepted Twashta as his guru. But then when he saw that Twashta was offering part of the oblations to the demons, then he got insecure due to his lack of faith in the instruction that he had received from his Shiksha Guru, Lord Brahma, who was acting on the representing the Lord. Due to his insecurity, his lack of faith, then he killed Twashta. Oh, sorry. He killed Vishvarup. Oh, sorry, yeah. So it was the son of Twashta, Vishvarup. Yeah, so he killed Vishvarup. And then that made things worse. So we see that he partially surrendered, right? He surrendered to the extent of, okay, I'll accept Vishvarup as my guru, but he didn't surrender to the part of tolerating his inclination towards the demons. As soon as he saw that slight inclination, then he abandoned the whole instruction. Then he just kind of rejected the whole instruction. And then he ended up in a difficult situation. So that's one example of Indra's partial surrender. Another example we see here just in yesterday's class, or even no, right here in this section, is that Lord Vishnu instructed him how to kill Vrtrasura. And he said, get the bones of Dadichi, make this thunderbolt weapon, and you release the thunderbolt weapon and kill him. So he partially followed it. They went to Dadichi, they got the bones, they had Vishvakarma make the weapon. The weapon was there in his hand, but then he lost faith because the club didn't work. He's thinking that the thunderbolt's not going to work. But Vrtrasura is like, no, Lord Vishnu told you. Vishnu didn't say the club was going to work. He said the thunderbolt was going to work. So just have faith in the words of Lord Vishnu and release the thunderbolt. There's another instance where Indra lost faith in the instructions of the Lord. So we see here that what happens with Indra because of his partial surrender is that he's only partially able to follow the instructions. And then he ends up miserable and depressed because he doesn't get the full reciprocation of the Lord. So Vrtrasura is trying to talk some sense into him and try to boost his faith a little bit. So on the other hand, Vrtrasura, his surrender was not partial. He was actually fully surrendered to the Lord, even though he was a demon. And we see this that in his previous life, he was a Gandharva. So he was Chitraketu, and he was flying in his airplane as a Gandharva. He was actually the king of the Gandharvas. And then he was cursed by Parvati to become a demon. But he didn't get insecure. He didn't get upset about it. He accepted that, okay, whatever Krishna does is good. This has happened. It's been ordained by providence. So I'll just embrace it. I'll just accept it. And he was qualified. He could have counteracted the curse. He said, who are you? He could have said, who are you to curse me? That's not going to happen. But he didn't. Because he wasn't attached to his position. Indra was very attached to his position. So any little thing threatens him and makes him insecure. And he, kind of loses sight of the goal. Whereas Vrtrasura, he wasn't attached to his material position. He was just attached to, whatever Krishna wanted him to experience, and he accepted it with faith. And the same way, when now we're seeing that Vrtrasura has full faith that this thunderbolt weapon is going to work. And because he also has faith that because Lord Vishnu instructed Indra to kill him, that this was the best thing for him. That whatever the Lord wants, even if the Lord wants me to be dead, I embrace that. I accept that that's the best thing for me. It's not just the best thing for Indra, it's the best thing for me. So he was like, all right, Vishnu wants me to be killed by this weapon. Please use this weapon and kill me. Please fulfill the order of the Lord, because the order of the Lord is good for all parties concerned, including me. So it's amazing that actually even what Vrtrasura had to surrender to, it was more difficult. Right? It's more difficult to surrender to being killed than it is to surrender to using a weapon that you were instructed to use to kill someone else who's threatening you, right? So you can see that the standard of Vrtrasura's surrender was very, very high. Okay, and then the result, of course, the result of Indra's partial surrender is that Krishna partially reciprocates. So he reciprocates to the extent that he enables him to be victorious, which is what Indra wanted, but he doesn't let him go back to Godhead. He has to stay rotting in the material world. Whereas Vrtrasura's surrender, because it's full, then he gets full reciprocation, and he gets to go back home, back to Godhead very quickly. So that's partial surrender. Next thing is conditional surrender. So conditional surrender is that, Krishna, I'll surrender on the condition that I get what I want. Right? So a lot of times we do that. It's kind of like a bargaining. That Krishna, I'm going to, I have this need in my life, and I'm going to do this, chant some extra rounds if you do this for me, or I'll, start going to Mangal Arati every day for the month of Kartik if you do this for me, right? Like I remember there was one devotee, and she found out that her spiritual master was very, very sick, and at that time she had been slack in her initiation vows. She wasn't chanting her 16 rounds. So she kind of publicly announced that I'm going to start chanting my 16 rounds every day again, on the condition that Krishna will save my guru and not let him leave his body. So it was nice. She wanted to save her guru, but it was a condition. It was conditional. And if I was Krishna, I would have been like, wait a minute, you promised to do that anyway. What is this? It's kind of like you say you're going to do something, and then so you say you're going to do something, you do it. Especially you take a vow to do it, and not that later you use that to kind of induce somebody to fulfill your desire. So Krishna's going to do what's best. And there was also a family when I was a teenager. My family were Christian, so we go to church every Sunday. And there was this family. They had a daughter who was about maybe 13 years old, and she had cancer. So every Sunday, they would come to church with their daughter. The whole family, very devotional, very prayerful, and the whole church would pray, please, dear God, please, help this young girl to win her battle against cancer and to continue her life, like that. But then within, a year or so, the girl left her body. And then after that, the family was never seen in church again. So it's kind of like conditional, right? If you do this for me, I'll do that for you. But if you don't do this for me, then we're done. So that conditional surrender is, Krishna also responds with, he reciprocates conditionally. So he's like, okay, then I'll give you something, but if you stop doing what you said you were going to do, then I'll take that back too. So it just becomes a business exchange. Krishna just reciprocates. And we see here that Indra's mood is like this, that he approaches the Lord for help in so many different times, so many different pastimes. Lord Indra's going to Brahma, he's going to Lord Vishnu, asking for help because the demons are attacking, or because so many different things. And he tries to do what's advised, but to a certain extent, but it's just to get what he wants. And then as soon as he has what he wants, then his devotion gradually starts to wane until he gets himself in trouble again as a result of that diminished devotion to the Lord. And his material desires become prominent again, and then he does something ridiculous again, and something bad happens, and then he has to go calling out to the Lord again. Right? So, like that, when he feels that the Lord is bestowing some great blessing on him, then he'll do something. But as soon as he doesn't need the Lord's help, then everything becomes slack. So this is conditional. And it's because he wants so many things. And so when you want things, then that's the tendency that, okay, I'm willing to pay for what I want, right? Like I'm not just going to go and try to steal something or, beg, borrow, or steal, but I'm willing to pay for what I want. So I'll pay with my japa, I'll pay with my sadhana, I'll pay with my service, I'll pay with my some sacrifices here and there for, whatever I'm supposed to be doing as a devotee. But ultimately, I'm paying the price because I want to get what I want, right? So then you may get what you want. Like Indra, he got what he wanted in this case. He was victorious. He killed Vrtrasura. He was, secure again in his position as the king of heaven. But, he's not a pure devotee. So that's, which is the ultimate desirable thing. Whereas Vrtrasura, Prabhupada says here in the purport that Vrtrasura never wanted material possessions, for he knew very well the nature of such material possessions. Like I was talking about as Chitraketu, he learned some very valuable lessons there about material possessions and how they don't make you happy. So because Vrtrasura didn't want anything, then there were no conditions to his surrender. It's like, whatever it is, whatever you want, Krishna, whatever you think is best for me, that's good. I accept it. So in throughout the scriptures, this kind of surrender, this unconditional surrender, is glorified. And in nectar of devotion, nectar of instruction, I think it's text 9 or 10, talks about the different levels of devotees. And then he says there that the highest, the best devotees are the gopis of Vrindavan. And he says the reason is because they don't expect anything in return for their service. In other words, unconditional. They're not doing it because they want something. They're just doing it to please Krishna. So that's full surrender. And we're just serving Krishna to please Krishna. I don't want anything. Like Lord Chaitanya said, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundarim, Kavitam va Jagadishi Kamaye, Mama Janmani Jammanishvare, Bhavatad Bhaktir Ahaituki Tvaye. That Almighty Lord, I have no desire for wealth or beautiful women or followers, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundarim, nor do I even want liberation. Mama Janmani Janmani, even if I have to take birth again in this material world, if that's how you want me to serve you, then I'm willing to do even that. So that's the level of full surrender. And that's the goal, that Atmanivedanam, just offering everything, mind, body, soul, resources, manasa, deha, geha, yokichu, more, arpilun, tuhapade, nanda kishore, that my mind, my body, my home, my possessions, everything that I have, Krishna, it's just yours. It's all yours. I just lay it down at your lotus feet. I offer it to you as your service. Please use it as you like. And then Krishna reciprocates with that full surrender. He reciprocates fully. And that's what we want. We want the full mercy. And we see here with Vrtrasura that he got the full reciprocation, that he was able to go back home, back to Godhead. And so that's in the text 23, it's saying that, Prabhupada's saying in the purport that in the verse itself it says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead forbids his devotees to endeavor uselessly for religion, economic development, and sense gratification. O Indra, one can thus infer how kind the Lord is. Such mercy is obtainable only by unalloyed devotees, not by persons who aspire for material gains. So he's confirming the same thing that Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that this mercy is not obtainable for those who surrender partially or those who surrender conditionally because they're attached to material things or they want something from the Lord. But it's only obtainable by unalloyed devotees. So we have to try to be this unalloyed devotee, fully surrendered devotee, so that we can get the full mercy. We can get the complete mercy of the Lord. And we see that Vrtrasura in his previous lives as Chitraketu, he lost a lot, right? In his process of becoming devotional service, he lost his son, he lost his position as a Gandharva, as king of the Gandharvas. And then even coming to this earth, previously he was a king on earth, and then he was a king in the celestial realm, and now he takes birth as a demon. He doesn't even have a position in this material world. So he loses so much, but he gains spiritually. Right? His Krishna consciousness increases, his dependence on the Lord increases, his surrender increases, and ultimately he gains the highest goal of pure devotional service. So this is the ultimate success. Success in life is not having a lot of money, it's not having a position of power, it's not having lots of friends and good social connections and beautiful people to be with. It's about having a loving relationship with Krishna. So Vrtrasura learned that through multiple lifetimes, right? Like Krishna says, Bahunam Janmanamante Gyanavam Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. That after many births and deaths, a person who is actually in knowledge fully surrenders to me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. So it's a journey that sometimes takes lifetimes. It took Chitraketu lifetimes to come to this position of pure devotional service. But it doesn't have to take lifetimes. We can understand even in this lifetime that Vasudeva Sarvamiti, that Krishna is everything. That there's nothing else that's truly valuable. Nothing in this material world has value. That it's all just zeros, and unless we put Krishna into the picture, unless we put the one in front of the zeros, then it's all just zeros. But as soon as we connect everything to Krishna, engage everything in Krishna's service, surrender everything to Krishna, then it all becomes valuable. The 1 0 becomes 10 with the 1 in front of it. 2 zeros becomes 100. 6 zeros becomes 1,000,000, like that. So as long as the 1 is there, as long as Krishna is there, when we surrender all those zeros to Krishna, then they become valuable. All of our material things have value. So, yeah, and at the end of the purport to 22, Srila Prabhupada assures us that, it's not that a devotee is going to necessarily have nothing, but Krishna is going to arrange that devotees have what they need to facilitate their devotional service. But that those things, whatever a devotee has, it's not a result of karma. So sometimes we see a devotee has a lot of nice things. You might think, oh, he's got good karma, he must have been pious in the past life. But we shouldn't think like that. We should think, no, Krishna's giving that devotee facility and resources, and because that devotee knows how to use them in his service. And like that. It says, a devotee never uses material possessions for any purpose other than the service of the Lord. So we see Srila Prabhupada, the first installment of Krishna's mercy was that he took everything away. He took away his money, he took away his business, he took away his family. But then the later installments of mercy, he gave everything. He gave so many, thousands of disciples, properties all over the world, so much money and fame and like that. So Krishna gives whatever the devotee needs and he gives according to the devotee's qualification, but ultimately the material things are not a measure of success. The measure of success is our loving devotion to Krishna. So I'll stop there. Any questions or comments on these points? 3 different levels of surrender: partial, conditional, and full surrender, and how Krishna reciprocates differently with those accordingly.
I had a comment. I spaced out for a second, and then you were talking about how Vrtrasura was saying, like, I don't want this material life, I don't want any of these things, just kill me now. And I was thinking, if you heard someone saying this phrase who wasn't a devotee, it'd be very concerning. It's
Yeah.
like, this person is extremely depressed, this person is suicidal, they need help. So I was thinking, like 2 things at the end. You said like the 1 in front of the zeros, and that's a very concerning statement. And then you put the 1 like Krishna, like, oh, he doesn't want to be in the 0 because that's Krishna. Then that statement becomes a good thing. I was also thinking of like the tree reflection thing. The highest in the spiritual world is the lowest here. Like this person, like you hear someone saying, like in the material world, it's a good thing. Like, yeah, I'm very proud of all of my achievements, and all these things that I have. I love my life, I'm very attached to all of this and that. But then, as a devotee, will be like, I appreciate everything I have, but I want to go back to the spiritual world. So that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, good. But it's not only that. In Vrtrasura's case, it's even beyond that. The reason that he wants to die and go back to Godhead is because he knows that Lord Vishnu wants that. Lord Vishnu literally instructed Indra, kill him. I want him dead. So Vrtrasura as a devotee is like, oh, the Lord wants me dead. I also want to be dead. Right? So it's not that he's desiring, because also to go back to Godhead in one sense can be like, a little bit of a selfish desire if the Lord wants you to stay and serve him here in this material world. Right? So if Vrtrasura knew that, if Vrtrasura had heard Lord Vishnu say, actually, don't kill Vrtrasura, I don't want him to die. He appears to be a demon, but he's actually a nice devotee. I think you guys should team up and he can help you because of his strength. You two can conquer the demons together. And, if that was the instruction, I'm sure Vrtrasura would have been like, yeah, all right, Indra, let's work it out. Don't kill me, let me live. Vishnu wants us to work together to spread Krishna consciousness. And because the demons they trust me, maybe I can, cheat them and get them to become submissive to you. That could have been another outcome if that's what the Lord wanted, but that's not what the Lord wanted. So Vrtrasura, he desired to die because he desired to fulfill the desire of the Lord, which was for him to die. That's all. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for the class, Mataji. Always your class is simply interested. You're like a commander-in-chief, giving us strength to move forward in life. So my question is, we're talking about full surrender. When you that full surrender is Krishna, whatever I have is yours, use it the way you want. Sometimes I feel like we just talk about that, but then I go say to the Lord, okay, whatever happens, use it the way you want. But I feel like there is, we are trying to understand how to preach that. That is actually, when I say, but actually it's not manifesting. For example, when I'm chanting, I shouldn't be distracted if I was fully silent. So sometimes in words and desires, we feel like we want to fully silent. But that's not manifesting in, for example, like the example I gave you, like, that means what I desire, what I thoughts, and what words I'm giving to Krishna. That's manifested. That means I shouldn't be thinking anything else when I'm chanting the whole day. So how to bridge this gap, how to understand this gap?
Yeah. So we may have the desire to fully surrender, but then we feel like we're not, right? We're not quite there yet. We're still attached to material things, and that's why those material thoughts come up during japa, or just thoughts other than Krishna, right? Come up during japa. So one name for Krishna is Bhava Grahi Janardana, that it literally means he grasps, he accepts our bhava, he accepts our mood. And so in other words, he understands our heart, and he accepts that. He accepts, lost for words here. He acknowledges, and he sees our heart's desire. Right? So my heart's desire is to fully surrender to Krishna, but there are these things that keep distracting me from that full surrender. There are things that keep pulling me away from, pure devotional service. So those things are just lingering. Those are just habitual, because we've been in the material world for so many lifetimes, and we've been, setting our goals as material successes, or so-called successes. Our goals have been material gain and, profit, adoration, distinction, to have a happy family, to have financial security, to be respected in the community, to have nice friends, to have good health and physical comforts, right? Those are the things that materialistic people think are like, that's a good life. That's what we desire. So because we've been living like that for lifetimes, then we still have those lingering feelings or values, right? And they don't go away so quickly. So, but when we become philosophically convinced that those are not the things to aspire for, that we want to just surrender to Krishna, then Krishna sees that. He sees that change of heart. But because of habit and because of conditioning, then we still have these lingering attachments, lingering thoughts, lingering anxieties that come up. But we just have to keep reminding ourselves. When they come up, just remind ourselves that, actually, no, let me just leave it in Krishna's hands. Just let Krishna's a supreme controller. He knows everything, and he can very easily arrange for, for my health, if that's what's good for me, for my family, if that's what's best for them, for my, career, my financial situation, if that's what's best for me. So therefore, when we pray, it should always be, if you so desire, And so that's a way of surrendering to Krishna. So that's a way of kind of like accommodating those lingering material attachments and anxieties in our full surrender, without compromising our full surrender. So you can go to Krishna and be real. We can't be fake. We can't be like, Krishna, I have no material desires. I have no material attachments. Everything is yours. We can aspire for that. We can go to Krishna and be like, Krishna, I really desire to have full surrender. I desire to just let go of all this and let you just totally take over my life and use me as an instrument in your service. But if we're not yet there, then we can go to Krishna and say, Krishna, I really desire to be your fully surrendered servant, but these things keep coming up. I still have these anxieties, and I don't have complete faith yet to surrender. So I'm bringing this to you, but just only if you desire, if you so desire. I'm not like ardently attached to this thing, although it does bother me, but ultimately I want what you want. And if this is what you want, then so be it. And if this thing that I'm worried about, if, for example, let's say you're really concerned about your career, there's a chance that you might lose your job or something, be made redundant or something, get laid off. So if you're in anxiety about that because of your family and your financial security, and it's necessary, then you might go to Lord Krishna and pray, please, let me keep my job. Please don't let me get fired. This is going to be really bad if that happens. And that's coming from like a place of attachment, insecurity, and a little bit of lack of faith. But if we go and say, Krishna, I trust that you know what's best for me. I trust that you're going to provide for my maintenance and protection. And so I just surrender to you. And if you so desire, then let me keep this job. And if you so desire, then let me lose it. But in either case, in victory or defeat, in happiness or distress, in success or failure, I'm just your surrendered servant. But this thing is bothering me. So please, do whatever. But I trust you. So like that, we can bring our concerns to him, but ultimately have that if you so desire clause in there, and try to trust Krishna. And then what happens is when we trust Krishna, then Krishna will bring about the best possible outcome. And then we'll see that, and then it may take some time, but we'll eventually realize that that was the best possible outcome. Whereas if we don't trust Krishna and we just go like, Krishna, please, don't let me get fired. Don't let me get laid off. I really need this job. If I lose this job, I'm going to be in trouble. What am I going to do? How am I going to feed my kids? How am I going to pay my rent? You really need to keep this job for me. Then Krishna might let us keep the job, but we'll lose the opportunity to develop our faith in him, or to go to the next step, the next level of surrender, or we won't gain the pure devotional service that Vrtrasura gained by trusting and surrendering, right? We'll be like Indra, that he was victorious, right? He wanted something, he prayed to the Lord for that, he got the instruction, and he was victorious. But was it a real victory? Right? So sometimes the real victory is defeat. That we don't get what we want, that we do get fired, And sometimes the best gain is a loss in spiritual life. So sometimes a material loss leads to spiritual gain. And that's what we really need, because ultimately we are not material, we're spiritual beings. So if matter doesn't really, we need the basic necessities, but Krishna's going to give us the basic necessities. Okay? And he says that for one who just, Bhagavad Gita 9:22, he says that for those who just completely surrender to me in unalloyed devotion, in full faith, then I preserve what they have and I carry what they lack. So he says, I will provide for you. I will protect you. You don't need to worry. Everything's gonna be there. But just surrender. Just trust me. And Krishna's all powerful. It's like Draupadi, by our own strength, we're trying to hold on to things. And Krishna's like, why are you struggling? Just relax. I got you covered. I'm God. I'm the supreme controller. I'm taking care of you. You're my devotee. And that's nice that what in the Sanskrit here says Pumsam Kilakanta Diyam Swakanam. So the Swakanam means who are recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his own. There's persons who fully surrender. Ekanta Diyam, who have this Diyam, that their consciousness, their intelligence is Ekanta, is one pointed. There's just one end. Eka means one and Anta means the end. There's just one end, one goal, one purpose, and that is Krishna. So those who are Ekanta Diyam, Krishna accepts them as his own. You are my devotee. You are my person. You're my little jiva. And that means that I'm going to take care of you, right? If someone's your own, you take care of them, like your own children. These are my own children. I might help another person's child, and if they need help, I'll try to help them. I'll try to provide something if they need something. But my own children, I'm going to give everything for. Especially as a mother, it's like you practically live for your kids, you know? It's like you sacrifice your own needs for their needs. So that's how Krishna sees his devotees who fully surrender at his lotus feet. These are my own, like my own children. I'm going to give everything for them. I'm going to do what's best for them in all circumstances, even if it troubles me personally. So we don't need to worry. You know, when Krishna sees us as his own, because we fully surrender, then everything's going to be good. And sometimes, like as human beings, like as a parent, you may feel like I want to do this for my child. I want to facilitate this in their life, but I'm not able to because I'm limited. I don't have the resources. I don't have the intelligence. I don't have the means. But Krishna's never in that situation. He always has the means because he's unlimited. He has unlimited power and intelligence and everything to provide for his own devotees. And we just need to surrender. And then we come into that category of swakanam. So we need to be, our job is to be ekantadiyam, to just make Krishna the one singular goal of our life. And then we come into that category of swakanam, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts us as his own. Okay? All right, we better wrap it up then. Time's up. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.